being stopped. Okay.
Okay, so hi everyone and welcome to a franchise discovery day, kind of. There's a bit of a hybrid day going on. We've got...
what did you call it?
It's a franchise discovery day, but it's kind of changed a bit because I think it's mainly going to be about grilling Simon instead.
Grilling, engaging in discussion.
Oh, right, okay. Engaging in discussion with Simon. Sorry, I've got the questions here.
Can I ask who Simon is?
I'm Simon. I'm here. I'm just come from next door and I'm president of the RIBA. Hi.
Oh, are you? Okay, hi. Hi, President. So you're Simon, I can't remember your surname.
Allford.
Allford, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, thank you for coming in and attending.
I'm delighted. I said it's almost a non-virtual meeting, but it's actually in a room, but you're virtual. So it's the hybrid.
It's the this is the
kind franchise of like hybrid.
New working way. So let's just go around the table. So I'm Lisa Rains. I'm the founder of Pride Road, the architectural practice franchise. Simon?
I'm Simon Allford. I'm founder of AHMM Architects and currently president of the RIBA.
I'm Shwara, based in Sutton. I'm an architect and I run Pride Road, Sutton, Kingston.
What was your name again?
My name is Shwara.
Shwara. How do you spell that?
Good question.
S-H-U-A. Yeah.
H-R-A.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Laura?
I'm Laura Simpkins. I'm an architect. I run Pride Road, New Forest and Bournemouth.
Magda?
What do I say about that?
My name is Magda. I'm from Manchester and I'm one of the franchisees.
How many franchisees are there?
There are 5 of us. Sandy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Sandy. I'm the newest recruit just after Shwara, and I'm architect and I am based in South Warwickshire. So, and I'm in Warwick at the moment because I've got the dreaded COVID.
Oh, well done for coming along.
Yes, I thought you wouldn't really want to be meeting me in person.
I had it last week.
Oh, did you?
I had a bad version. I was not very well at all. There you go. I'm naturally vaccinated now.
Excellent. So do you want to introduce yourself, Jane?
I'm Jane Blakely. I'm nobody to Pride at the moment. I'm merely an observer, but maybe thinking of joining.
Right.
I'm an architect, by the way.
Yep.
And
I'm based in Jersey.
Jersey.
Jersey,
yeah.
Everyone's an architect. Yeah,
Everyone's an architect, yes.
Say it again, everyone's an architect here.
Yes.
Not in this virtual and physical room.
Right, I'm going to pin us and then I think I'm going to try and pin. I'm going to just can you two mute yourselves so we can keep the audio quite clear, and then we'll bring you on.
Who, you mean us two?
Yes, Sandy and Jane. Okay.
Jane, we're officially us two.
I don't know how to, I think I am I muted?
Yeah, okay. Fantastic.
Nice to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a bit of a chaotic day because tube strikes.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So
you got it. You made
10,000 steps later.
Yeah, so we've just been at your showroom at the your showroom at E.H. Smith over in Farringdon.
Farringdon, yeah. Clark.
Yes, it was very interesting.
And then half an hour away from Euston Station turned out to be an hour back.
Yeah, well, I just walked from there. We could have all met at E.H. Smith, but
Oh, you walked from down there?
I've walked from Clarkville, yeah.
Oh, have you? Oh,
Yeah.
right.
I walked to Clarkville this morning via some sites.
Yes. Oh, okay.
We're populating 66 Portland Place.
We are. It's very quiet here.
Yes, it is. Well, we'll talk about that no doubt at some point.
Oh, not on the record.
No.
Yeah,
I mean, about it. I'd love to answer.
Oh, I noticed the shops closed at the moment.
Yeah.
And are there any public facing facilities open at the RIB at the moment?
The library's open, not as long as you've been. The bookshop's open a few days, and that's it.
Yes.
Obviously, I think institutions are slightly slower to respond than organisations because they're a bit more institutional. There is a long debate going on, and you're based in different places. There is always I'll just lay out my position. I happen to live around the corner, but that's just the way it is. But I do have offices elsewhere in the country.
Hello.
Should we carry on?
Yeah, Natalie, you want to just sit yourself down? If you come and sit close to Magda, we're in the process of recording, and then you might appear on screen.
So I'll give you the quick, because there's always a London versus nations and regions discussion.
Yeah.
Right? This building is on a 999-year lease. 2 hours for like 500 a year or 900 a year. I don't know the number, but pepper, real pepper. We can only keep it if we use it as an architecture centre. So it's not like we can sell it, get another money. So my opinion is we should make it an architecture centre so that it's open to members, the public. All our staff who are in London, and there are staff elsewhere, should be in this building. And there should be 2 or 3 galleries, whether it's continuous or whatever. There should be an ongoing lecture program, and what is going on elsewhere and what is going on in this building should all be shared online using the Members Hub or YouTube and other things. It doesn't matter if you're in South Warwickshire or Sutton. If you don't come here, you can tune in. If you want to come here, you can. And so that this becomes, and I think that our collection, the V&A, all these things need to be rethought. Because otherwise, frankly, in my opinion, this is a dreary venue for hire that you walk in, you think, what does this offer me?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I mean, I've had to hire this room.
Yeah.
It's expensive. All the catering is expensive, super expensive.
And I've asked you to write me an email about that.
Yeah. They won't allow me to bring anything in, so we kind of held to ransom on the catering. And, I have to start looking at another venue.
Yeah, well, that's
that's something that's more affordable. I mean, it's such a shame because
it's crazy, but also, I mean, there may be a point where there is a members discount rate, but it's obviously not adequate. We're tied into whatever we're tied into. I don't want to get too involved in the detail of that, but my point is, it should be a place where members want to come.
Yeah.
There should be members' spaces anyway, because you've already paid for your membership. Equally, there might be a room charge, but it's a sensible room charge, because otherwise people say, well, I don't use the building and they get it for free, and London practices get more benefit or whatever it might be. But an equitable policy. But basically, this should be a place where we are bringing school children.
Yes,
bringing
but
the next
Alan
generation.
Jones had a similar agenda. I mean, albeit it was at the start of, before lockdown, before COVID, and that he did. I think there was a bar that he opened.
There's a bar. It's always been. It's not common to Ireland. There's always been peaceful. We're now doing a strategic review of where our assets are.
Yeah.
We have a property called 76 that we will sell.
Is there anything that we could do in the short term to get people in? Because I know kind of like how long are you in post for? Is it a year or 2 years?
No, I've been in for 6 months, or another 18 months.
So you've got 18 months, and I know how hard it is to get stuff through council and through the RIBA. Is there anything that you can
It's
implement?
slightly easier now because there's a thing called council, which is the strategic brains of the RIBA, and there's a set of trustees.
Yeah.
So my 2-year plan is signed off by both.
Right, okay.
And now we won't do the building, but we have to make the building physically accessible. It's not accessible for disabled. There's an adequate room for the building. The lifts aren't big enough. So a competition has been launched, and 7 practices have been shortlisted. It's a competitive interview process.
Yeah, but surely that's got quite a long time frame.
No, that has got a long time frame. That's why, meanwhile, I'm gathering data from people like you, and I have a board meeting where we've discussed the idea that we need to review the fact that this building should be used for, let's call it the built environment, hosting of the built environment debate. So we had that big pre-COP26, the Built Environment Summit here, which was open. So it wasn't just us and our members, it was open to anyone who's interested. So we should be, all the other institutes rent themselves out. In my opinion, we should become the one that doesn't rent ourselves out, so that all the other professions in the built environment come here for the debate. So architecture is at the centre of that debate. Not that we own it.
And is there a time frame of doing that in the short term? Within the next 18 months?
Yes,
Okay.
there is.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've unmuted myself. Simon, is it not used for that use already?
No, it's let out to people who pay for it.
And that's it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Program's obviously fallen away, but what we've all learned since the lockdown is we could have programs. So we've had a series of hybrid lectures here, so that you could. There's always this tension between London and elsewhere. But if you have all your lectures both elsewhere coming into here going elsewhere, then this is the global capital. It's a global city, so we can use that to our advantage. So if Doshi gets the medal and he's here talking about it, there's an exhibition, but then we can also make sure that the exhibitions we're doing are also wrapped up virtually and available. So there is this sort of connection. So our broad global
Kind of architecture community hub.
Sorry?
An architecture community hub.
Yeah, well, I call it the House of Architecture, the Institute of Ideas, so that there is discourse here captured. Now, so I was chairman of the Architecture Foundation, Open House, Architecture Foundation, NLA, the Traditional Architects Group. To me, there are yourselves, there are lots and lots of organisations who represent lots and lots of different groups of members. Why are they using events at the Geographical Society? Why aren't they all here? So there could be an RIBA programme, which might be about regional awards, national awards, student medals, international medals, gold medals, that's ongoing. And then there can also be, a debate, women in architecture, or whatever it is going on here. Traditional Architects Group, we feel there are. All these groups should be here, so that there is a programme that is not curated but accommodated.
Yes,
and there is a curated programme, because then you're sort of saying we are a hub. That way, it's not. I don't like, because I'm not. I'm just a member of the RIBA. I don't like RIBA diktats as a practitioner. I don't want to be told what to do. I am interested in being helped.
Good point. Good point. And also for students, when I was a student, which is actually a few moons ago now, the RIBA in Portland Place was almost like a kind of, it was, you went there, but you didn't go there. It was like as if other things went on that you weren't welcome to. And I think it should be completely an open door for students to be able to go to lectures and events and workshops as well.
When I was a student, I happened to be at Sheffield, and then I was at the Bartlett. David Dunster was the professor at the Bartlett, and he was also went to Liverpool. But he used to run the events program here, and Tuesday nights were amazing. The building buzz. You met thousands of people, and then you went for a drink at the Dover Castle. So to me, that's my personal experience, and it was extraordinary. So I saw many. I saw the young lions, the old lions. All there was a whole series of events that meant I connected with architecture on a personal level as well as on a love of the subject, academic level.
I've got lots of questions.
I just tried to delay receiving.
And I'm going to ask this one. So, because I have the questions in front of me and I can choose which ones I go for. Where are we up to with recognitions of architects' qualifications from overseas?
I happen to have had a meeting just now with the chairman of the Architects Registration Board. Because it's their project, not our project. And there is apparently a large amount of progress going on with Europe, America, many of, I suppose, former Commonwealth, countries which have a stronger connection with the UK, including all of Europe and America. So that's in their bag, and they are on it, and we are trying to work with them.
Is there a time frame?
I haven't got that time frame, but near is the word I'm hearing. So I do believe that will. And
is there any non-UK qualifications that are recognised here at the moment since Brexit?
There has always been this issue about we validate schools around the world.
Bit of a selfie going on.
We validate schools around the world, but you know, it's only the UK schools, I believe, that get the ARB recognition. Yeah. So that will transform when we have this mutual recognition.
I mean, round the table we've got, so Natalia, where did you qualify?
In Italy.
Yeah.
And Magda?
I'm probably for it.
So if that was the case now, the qualifications wouldn't be recognised?
No, I think that it's there. We are just very clear, right? The RIBA, as you know, is a voluntary body of people. In my 100-day speech, which is on YouTube, I talked about opening up to lots of people who are not architects. So my point is that ARB is the Register of Architects. Yeah, we are a voluntary body. My opinion is there's plenty of people who've studied architecture not working in our field who are sympathetic with this field who should be able to be members of RIBA. So instead of having our part 1, part 2, and then part 3, and then membership, we should be having all kinds of different memberships. We should have friends of the RIBA. We should have art teacher who wants to be engaged with the RIBA can join. We shouldn't be, but we should obviously have our professional qualification, but that's actually defined by the ARB. So we should remember that distinction. And obviously, we are in effect, therefore, in my opinion, a kind of learned society who should be using our library, our engagement with schools, and our engagement with the membership to share best practice and open up the discourse, because we all have different views on things. So we should be an open house of debate, and that's where the RIBA brings value to its members.
So
could it also open up to the public a lot more, and the public?
Yes,
so that there's a great advert for us if we open up to the public more, and the RIBA would be great.
One of the projects, Femi Orisanya, who's a council member, we've set up a group, and we've talked about a thing called Built Environment Day. What we're saying is the RIBA already does this, but not widely enough. What we should do, we should have a toolkit, and any architect or chartered practice, wherever it might be, can get that toolkit. We have a register of people. We have a register of people who will offer work experience to schools around the country. So if you're living in Hull and you don't know someone, your school, sixth form teacher or careers advisor can go to the RIBA, and you can find out there's 7 local practices who offer and are approved, safe or whatever that is, to do that. So that's one thing we should do. We've also talked about having an outreach program to schools, which the RIBA does do, but not enough. But not enough members know about what the RIBA does, so that you actually can go into a school and say, what is architecture? My personal view, and I think Femi shares it, but it might evolve, is that shouldn't just be architecture, because it's a bit like quite specialised needle in the haystack stuff. So you might go in with an engineer and a contractor and say, actually, there's a thing called the built environment. It's a rather extraordinary thing that shapes our lives in a huge way. I happen to be an architect, this is what I do, and I happen to be an engineer. I'm a structural engineer, but I could be a mechanical electrical engineer, and I have, I'm a landscape architect, or I'm a contractor, or even I'm a client, and open people up so they don't stumble into this because their uncle's a plumber or whatever it is. They actually can make positive decisions.
Yeah, so that's talking about going into talk to school children. How would you address the issue of lack of diversity and girls coming into the profession and into the built environment as well? Okay,
I mean, in terms of opening up the profession, I think it's probably let's go back a little bit. I think it's worth going back. Architecture, there's a term gentleman architects that exists, a historical term.
Gentlemen, ladies, as well, lady architects as well.
Yeah, no, but it tended to be historically the gentleman architect, right? Now, to me, that implied a number of things. It implied you had a private income, and it implied it was a hobby. We then had a thing called the public sector, where most architects, post-war, involved in the public sector about 80%. And we had a small amount of private practice that was called commercial practice. The public sector fell away in the deregulation Thatcher years. So now most architects are in some form of private practice. Public practice is coming back, but it's a tiny number. And there is therefore, in my view, a real confusion in the profession around the idea of architecture as hobby versus architecture as something that pays a living wage, or even more than a living wage. Architects generally, on average, are not very well paid as a profession.
No.
And that's a real issue. So I think, you know, part of the RIBA can help is encouraging. I talk about three things: competence, confidence, and cash flow. So the word commercial architect I truly hate, because I always say I'm a commercial architect. I have to make money to pay for my business, to pay my staff, to create all these, you know, health schemes, paternity schemes, to help train people, to look after them if they're ill, whatever it might be. Yeah. But the trouble is, and the next generation obviously talk about this a lot, but the trouble is a lot of practices are very much on the breadline, and they are struggling to, you know, their cash flow is really poor. And when clients
It doesn't help. It doesn't help, Simon. Can I add something? Because I've got quite interested in the politics of architecture and existing systems. It doesn't help that we don't have protection of function in the country. If we had that, as the rest of Europe and the world has, we'd get a lot more work. I don't know what you think on that.
I have a slightly difference in that. I don't think you'll get protection of function, having just walked out of the meeting with the ARB. I don't
Yeah, it's a shame.
In the rest of Europe, what you find is there is someone who happily, for small fee, signs the drawings of someone who isn't an architect. I think the way we will get out of this is a cultural and educational and commercial shift over time. So that, you know, we value ourselves. We value what we do, and we don't give our work away for free, which is what a lot of.
Would you mind if I wrote to you my thoughts on protective function?
Very happy to receive your thoughts.
Because no, I've done quite a lot of reading and thoughts, and I'm part of a little RIBA Architect Association in Jersey, and we discuss it occasionally.
No, I'd be very.
Is that okay? Fantastic, thank you.
Of course, yeah.
So going back to the question, how would you encourage girls to go into architecture and construction?
Okay, so I mean, in that sense, by going to schools, you open it up to the wider community of people from all different kinds of backgrounds. Girls are obviously.
But it can't just be a piecemeal exercise and a voluntary exercise. It needs to be kind of drilled into school education. Yeah, you could argue that architecture could be on the curriculum. My point would be that if architects are embedded in their community, architects will be in a much stronger place, small or large practice. So, you know, we have a large practice, or it's small. We are very embedded in our community. We have engagement with schools, local groups, you know, homeless programs, whatever it is, because it is great as a business to be embedded in the community. So I think the RIBA, by driving forward, you know, this idea of the Built Environment Day and the connection with schools on a much bigger level, means that practices who wish to engage with their community will, but you cannot tell practices to do it. You can say we've set up that network. The same with offering work experience. Most people get work experience because they have a friend of a friend who's an architect. But isn't this something that we could lobby the government on?
And also, why you were just saying it being the practices doing it? Why would the RIBA not have some members of staff that purposely are out?
Because then your fees would go up and you'd say, why am I paying more? My point is, that's why my personal views is that the RIBA is us. We are like, you know, it is us. We are the RIBA. If you're a member of the RIBA, you are the RIBA. Why would you want to pay people to do it who are not, you know, who spend money when in fact I think culture would be much better if practices were doing it, and it wouldn't. Yeah, if practices go to the local school for 2 hours at lunchtime and prepare a talk to give with an architect, you know, with a builder and an engineer, say, that is actually money well spent because they become part of their community. They will also have converted the next generation to understanding what the built environment is. If it's all done by the RIBA, to me, it's potentially institutionalized and rather soulless.
I'm not sure your average architect is very good at explaining, perhaps to an 8-year-old. You know, there are different skills. There are skills in communicating.
The RIBA has a toolkit about that, doing that. And I think architects, one of the things they are good at is being communicators. And then again, that's that learning. And if architects learn to be better
communicators, we have to unlearn some of their vocabulary.
But that's it. I'm not big on architecture and complex vocabulary. I think it's kind of a private language.
Okay, I'm going to change the subject a little bit.
So I'll just go back to attracting girls in. I have 3 sisters now, 3 daughters. I think the entry, as I understand it, is very much 50-50 now
Yeah.
into the profession.
Yes.
So we're doing catch up down as you go further into the profession, because it was probably 70-30 or whatever. So there's been a huge change in that.
Is that into the ARB?
Into the architectural profession.
Into the
In
profession?
schools, into schools.
No, but that's into
Into
schools,
the
not into the
retention.
Yes,
profession.
yes, because then you have a fall away.
Yes.
You know, and I've had various feedback on this, and there'll be lots of different numbers.
Mm.
To me, the part of the fall away is not this happens to everyone, but is an ill-equipped profession that has inadequate paternity, maternity, and all the other schemes that doesn't pay that much money.
Mhm.
That means actually, once you're a mother,
Mhm.
it's actually penalised to get
Dreadful.
back to work because the
Yeah.
cost of childcare.
Simon, you're actually penalised from
Yeah.
the point at which you've fallen pregnant
You know,
to then going on maternity leave. And then if you want to go back into the workplace, it is one hell of a battle to get back into the workplace. And even worse if you move job.
One that I had to teach my directors what maternity leave was, and
Mm.
you feel like completely different to everyone else because you can't help it, but you've got to go and have this baby and come back, and you can't do it full time, you can't be who you were.
But that,
You feel bad about it, like you don't, it's not recognised, you just feel like a square peg in a round hole. Whereas up to them, you could completely be equal to everybody.
And then when you are on a high level and want to get promoted, you want to get promoted at the same pace as your colleagues with the same experience, because they do all this afternoon, evening networkings that you are supposed to do, but you are rather spending time with the family. So it's kind of,
so what you need is a better funded profession that's also better educated to value. So my personal piece, I now took as AHMN, not as president of the RIBA, to make that distinction. In our practice, one of my directors only works 2 days a week because she's chosen to do that, and she's a mum. She's very brilliant in those 2 days a week. We have unqualified architects who become associates because they, you know, they take their part 3 to be it's about people, not about, and we have, my view is, as a generality, mums who come back to work, but they work 2 days, 3 days, or 4 days, or some 5 days. They come in, they're very, very focused, and they work incredibly diligently with a certain precision. Whereas someone who's just at another point of their career might do a lot of hanging around, right? Because that's what happens to us. There's quite a lot of hanging around, including myself, that goes on. So my point is, but when you're a very small practice, you lose one person, it's also very difficult. You know, when we had 4 people, you know, and our first 2 employees were women, you know, and you lose one on maternity leave, you can't look after them properly because there isn't adequate funds. So what you need is a better funded profession to make sure it can take advantage. So I'm all up for flexible, pre-COVID, I'm all up for flexible models of working.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, once you've stepped away from the profession on maternity, there's a lack of confidence to come back in. And I think that's probably true for most of us around this table. Just, I mean, I think after my second child, the RIBA was supporting a return to work program, which was really useful. It was here, was it here? I think it was here, in the RIBA. And it
The
was,
RIBA were better than the AIRB, I remember on my maternity leave, because you could get a reduced subscription, but you couldn't get anything like that with the AIRB. And if you didn't sign up after 2 years, they chucked you off. And I remember phoning up kind of in desperation, like a month late, saying, can I get back on the register, and sort of talked my way back on. But it was really hard to afford it, to keep it going. Like it was a
Who wants to
bit
pay £400 a year and £200 a year
yeah.
when they're not at work at all and they're not in a highly paid job? So I totally agree. That's something, you know, to me, this goes back to the confidence and cash flow. Lawyers aren't having this problem. It's us who have this problem because people doing jobs for 2%.
I mean, and this is one of the reasons why, or this is the reason why I set up Pride Road, is to provide that competence, confidence and cash flow. It is about providing that confidence, the competence in the way that we do our business model, and then the cash flow kind of looking after the, well, helping with the business side of things. A lot of it is the confidence.
I talk about the RIBA not so much doing things, but being more of a connector. So the new membership hub should mean that, you know, there could be a, you know, maternity leave membership hub section where people are able to talk with colleagues, about the challenges they're
I would
facing
have
and
loved to
learning
find
from
other
other colleagues
women,
who've already
yeah,
been through it
in the
about how
same
they
boat.
best addressed it.
Yeah.
But then also practices could then draw upon that to one, they should realise the value of all people. We've got employment inflation at the moment, because there's a certain reduction in the pool of working architects, which is kind of fine, good for architects in a way, it's reflecting their fees to clients. But the point is, we should be able to sort of practices should be pointed out the benefits of the range of people working in different models and how that actually releases practice. A modern practice, I've got a dozen people working in AHMM around Europe who've left us. The keep them, if you like them, I wouldn't want that completely, because I do think people being in physical environment is useful. But if someone's good and you know them and they go back and live somewhere else, you think, well, actually, if you can make it work, let's make it work.
I always thought that there's a role for Pride Road actually being a change maker in the profession and kind of, being recognised by the RIBA and working with the RIBA on some policies. If, throw my hat into the ring if ever you want to have that discussion.
I'm up for that, but not just Pride Road, but anyone who's, my point is get good models of practice and share them. And I'm less interested in the RIBA making a policy about it, which to me is a diktat. The more the RIBA say, if you want to employ people in different ways, here are 5 exemplary versions of it going on in the profession now. Yeah. Because I think there's always good examples. We don't all know where they are. We can't find them.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I'm just going to flip down some of these questions, and if there's any, we'll go around the room afterwards, and if there's any questions that you really want to ask, then please do. So the RIBA has got a chartered practice scheme, and I'm a chartered practice, and I'm sort of like trying to sell that to my to the franchisees. First of all, do you know how you would become a chartered practice? I think
at least one, and I'm not an expert in all policy, it's on the website, so I think one seat, at least one partner or founder or whatever director has to be a RIBA qualified architect, at least 1 in 8 of all your staff.
And what would you say are the advantages of being a chartered practice?
I think there are some various toolkits and advice and guidance you get. Are we dealing with PII? No, that's something we should be dealing with, which we are looking at in Jennifer Dixon, who's now in small practice but was in large practice, is leading on that. And I've got business with Michael Goldschmidt on that. To me, because we've talked about what Pride Road does. We've talked about having a practice in a box. So if I have a set up a practice, there's an RIBA idealised employment contract, an RIBA professional indemnity insurance, and there is one that might be more suitable. So all the things you need, because what you'll find is there's an RIBA fee calculator, these kind of things. Every practice I grew up with and then talk to young practices now, they all learn off each other. And it's sharing the knowledge and data. Why should we all make our own stuff?
I mean,
as a
chartered practice, I see the advantages are being put on the RIBA website, on Find an Architect, and I get clients through there.
You do?
Yeah,
good.
I do
actually.
That's good. And we monitor our numbers. So I could actually give you some stats. It's not a huge proportion, but it's some. And then we get invited to the Home Builders show. So we've got one coming up at the NEC end of March. So that's just an opportunity for brand awareness. I think those are my two biggest ones. I mean, it's for me, it's that marketing opportunity.
But to me, in small practice, there's a lot of learning goes on that gets lost. And if the members hub works properly, lots of ways of doing things could be shared amongst architects to the competitive advantage of all architects. Ways of managing your time, people's time, PI, details stuff. There's so much that goes on that we don't harness.
Laura had a question. Shall I read it out? So do you remember what you said?
Yes, please.
Laura read in your piece in the RIBA journal where you said that Zoom has allowed us to survive, not thrive. In the light of future home working and hybrid models, how do you see the future of the house design changing over the next 5 years?
Okay, I think that the reality is, my opinion, you might have a different opinion. I personally think we go to villages, towns and cities to meet other people. When we had to send our staff home because of COVID, everyone was worried about the loneliness of being on your own every day. Now there's a thing about, you want to come back to a place called work where we all meet, and yeah, there's an interesting tension there. My experience of that is that it's a bit like being homeschooled versus going to school. Part of going to work is the socializing benefits of going to work. Part of going to work is the informal friendships that you build up with groups of colleagues, some of whom will go elsewhere, and suddenly your network grows. So I don't think home working is a long-term future. And part of the lovely thing about going to work is to leave your home, go to work, travel, and by the time you come back, you've dumped whatever was going on in your day somewhere else. Whereas just going in from your kitchen table and back is really tricky. However, I think it's quite likely, maybe not in individual homes, so that would be a very heavy space take. But I think in terms of declining retail, there's a huge opportunity for informal work centres to be set up, you know, like the co-working spaces in all kinds of buildings. You know, cafes come back in a way because they're free Wi-Fi, but there can be better versions of that going forward. For some people, it's a shed in the garden. I live in a flat, you know, it's a room, but for some people, that wouldn't be realistic. You know, if you've got 3 children or you know, extended elderly family, you can't sacrifice a room to work. But wouldn't it be great if there was lots of places you can go and work? So I think there'll be a whole rebooting. And if you're making new housing, I think there will be the second bedroom office that existed for years anyway. But there might be this thing that while we've been put retail to make an active ground floor, why don't we have a kind of maker worker space that kind of allows that, you know, a bit like it's a community space without the tag community on it. It's a kind of, which is a place where people meet and convene. So that's my take on that.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, we just work with homeowners, so we do house extensions. So we are talking about this all the time, and most of my clients are seeing their long-term future as being hybrid, which means they need a desk at home for the long term. It's like a massive, massive change in how we use our homes. And most of our clients, so they to be able to afford our services, both parents work. So that's both of them.
Yeah.
So it's a huge sort of, we're seeing it on the ground, this big pressure on everybody's homes. And I'm down in Bournemouth, so people tend to have everyone, yeah, people tend to have a detached house, and lots of people have a garden room.
Yeah.
But if they don't, it's this big dilemma about, you know, people want 2 reception rooms now, as well as the open plan space. And there's just this big pressure.
I'm a big believer in the shed at the bottom of the garden, and you know, not to destroy architects, but there's quite good kits you can buy. I have many architect friends who bought that kit, and that's fine too, because you might, your advice for £1,000 might be.
It's just the heating of it. I think that's what crucifies most people now.
But I think that isn't the problem field. That's an opportunity for people to make architectural practice out of that need. I was thinking more in terms of in the more dense areas of the city where you can't extend, particularly in terms of apartment living, then actually there'll be another culture to take that into a more communal thing. And the problem, you know, the problem with hybrid working is the problem we all face with this and this is you send your emails, you get your emails, and you get to bed at 11 at night, you just check your emails, and you're irritated by something, you don't sleep very well. So I think there's a real problem with extended hybrid working because it's actually taking work everywhere in your life. I never a day on holiday or anywhere in the world that I am not answering 50 emails and taking 3 calls. I'm not sure that's good for my long-term health.
Technology, this kind of overlap with the COVID and working from home, but that's the iPhone and your email and your phone.
But the out of office doesn't really exist if you're at home because people know you're there, don't they? And where can you hide?
We found that young people didn't have broadband, so we had to get broadband for them because they're a bit more mobile. And the older people had broadband because they're a bit more stable. If you're renting, you may not bother to get a broadband contract. So yeah, that was something. But also you'd have these meetings where people were sitting back to back in a kitchen, working for 2 different offices in a flat chair. That's not great, in my opinion.
No.
So there are conveniences, of course. So maybe we'll never go back to 5 day week. Maybe it'll always be I prefer 4 to a 3 day week. People say, oh, it works for me. My one is, it might work for you, but does it work for all of us? As in, if there's a thing about being a mentor and a mentee, every day you're learning from other people and you're sometimes teaching them. And I think, in a way, if people go, well, I'm not an experienced architect, I can do my job at home, that's great. But then all the inexperienced architects are not.
Yeah, that's why I thought your thing about surviving, not thriving was really right, because I just started up my business when the lockdown happened, and I was stuck in my log cabin at the back of the garden. But I just felt really lonely because I wasn't getting that kind of, you just get ideas of people. You just talk through something. You just say something out loud.
They may not tell you anything, but they just by clarifying.
Yeah, or you answer your own question quite often just by chatting it through with somebody.
And it's also an important part of if you move to a new area and you're home working from day one, who are you meeting? Where's your in our office, I would say a large number of the relationships that are formed one way or another can be traced back through work, in terms of colleagues and things and sports, but whatever it might be going on. It is, why do you send kids to school? You send kids to school to learn social skills. Well, I think you carry on learning those social skills for the rest of your life, in my opinion. So it's an ongoing, it also enriches your life. That's why you engage with other people. That's why you have friends, because it enriches your life, I think.
I'm going to go to Sandy and Jane. Have you got any questions?
Just a minute, sorry. I'm listening to you.
Yeah, Sandy, have you got a question for Simon?
Well, just what you were saying before, just now, really resonates, because I sort of did the whole thing of like, oh, if I'm an architect, I can have a child and I can do architecture from home. And when it happened, I hadn't really had enough experience to be able to set up my own practice, to be able to copy and have the input from other people either. So it was very much a make it up on the spot, use my intelligence and logic. But I spent a long time being very lonely, and I spent a long time, things just, as Laura said, they just take so much longer, because you spend a lot of time wondering about whether you're doing something right, whereas if you could just talk to someone for 5 minutes. And the networking. Now I've joined Pride Road, I have to sort of start to create a network, and I realise how incredibly poor it is. I have friends, but I don't have that network that relates to work. Never talked about work with friends. So that's sort of my tuppence.
I mean, you all need networks of other professions as well as, you need your reliable engineers or your reliable subcontractor is a good plasterer or brickie or electrician. And then, or your reliable builder who's a so we all need, if someone's got a good builder, they've got to go tell you about it, so I want to. But we do all need this share.
There's also the spontaneity that happens. Like, I think I was talking to Laura earlier about the train journey. Like, if you're having a train journey as opposed to like a bus that you're talking about, it's more spontaneous things that happen along the way. Whereas if you're at home, it's just the mundane home stuff that goes on. I think that's interesting about the social aspect, because the more close we come, we just get used to it, don't we?
Yeah, but then we just need to redesign the aspect of work and make conscious decision of going into the social part of it. Because if we're missing it, it's like 100% always. Then you just need to catch up and do the, take out one day and do social lighting or whatever. When there are events, like in RIBA.
I mean, there are plenty of events that go on in regions and RIBA and others. I mean, the RIBA is one of lots of clubs that exist. And we go back to the point that made, that to me, co-working spaces are a very good model if they're flexible enough. You might say I'm working at home 3 days a week and I go to an office 1 day a week. And if that office also has to be a co-working space in an office of where architects are. So we've recently taken a new office, expanded the office. Because of my relationship with the Architecture Foundation, then got home, so we moved them into there, space. Then we've run a bursary program for 9 practices. I think 9 people, 6 practices, wherever it is. They get 9 months free in our office. But the great thing is they are learning off each other. And they are then learning off our young architects. And our young architects are learning off them. So I think there are lots of opportunities which, you know, the RIBA represents a bigger idea of everyone learning off each other. That you need, you know, Pride Road is one, but it might be geographically distinct. You can imagine, yeah, that to me is the thing that makes us all learn quicker and better, a bit like you go to college, which is why I think level 6 apprentices struggle, because they come in, they're in an office, they know very little, and they're on this 1 day a week, and it's really tough. Level 7 is slightly easy because they've been there. So I think these are all interesting things about which systems work, and that's not to say we can't make level 6 work, but you know, we all need to be sharing notes, those of us who employ level 6 apprentices, about, well, yours are doing better than ours, why? And what's the office offering them that's allowing them to accelerate in their learning? So I think, yeah, that's what an institute of ideas is about. We are swapping knowledge with each other.
So I'm conscious of time. So Jane, have you got a last question? And then we'll...
Oh, does it have to be a question?
No.
Well, just to explain the reason for thinking of joining Pride, which is obviously on my kind of list of things to pursue, is I personally find, now I'm 93, I'm kind of 28, 29 years post getting my part 3. And I've run my own little practice for 25 years. And I have to say the biggest crunch with, and I'm principally a sole practitioner, but I link with other architects and do work. And I have some CAD technicians that work for me outside of my office. So I'm flexible to whatever projects come up. But the principal thing that if I make a list of points, what's top of the list that's been challenging, whereas I thoroughly enjoyed running my own little show, the challenging aspects of it is procuring work. Now, whether that's because I'm a female architect in quite a patriarchal society back here, it's quite traditional and old-fashioned. It's a little bit of that, but I'm sure actually the female architects around the table may also agree with me that procuring work is actually quite a tricky area. So the Pride concept, I think, is a very clever solution to finding solutions to procuring work. But I just wanted to raise that because, I'm an individual here that kind of, most of my work is house architecture. But I get involved with, we've got a proposed new hospital in Jersey, which is a highly contentious project and the biggest project the islands have done. But because I've got an urban design qualification, I've got involved with the community group to pitch in my thoughts. And so I kind of, I like to think that I can dip into any kind of project, but the bottom line is procuring that work. And I haven't had any paid work for the hospital yet. It's always voluntary. It advertises me a bit, which is good, but procurement work is top of the list as the most challenging thing. And Simon, is that something you've ever found difficult?
Yes.
Okay, right, it's interesting because you're a bigger practice.
Philip Johnson said, architecture, what's the key thing in architecture? 3 key things to do as an architect. He said, getting jobs.
Oh, okay, gosh, Philip Johnson.
In the Hampstead and Highgate newspaper, the Ham and High, saying we do loft conversions. And we spent 4 years mixing up sandwich making with gambling with loft conversions whilst doing competitions in the evening. And it remains a highly competitive field.
Yeah.
And that's my point at the beginning. I don't mind. I said to young person, I don't mind you coming in and competing and taking jobs that I'd like to get. That's absolutely fine. And I don't mind you also being cheaper than me. But as soon as you've got yourself a little bit of a reputation, start charging proper money. Because that is the difficulty. And I have to say, architects will ring me up and say, the RIBA should fight these things. That will not happen. And then I can also tell you that they say we should have a voluntary code. I said, I'm happy to have a voluntary code. There is fee guidance. And I can tell you now, understandably, any kind of recession, and immediately everyone looks at their cash flow and they start cutting their fees to the bottom line to try and win work. And that's, That is one. That's why competence, confidence, and cash flow matter. If you've got money in the bank, you think, well, actually, why would I do that job for 2.5%? When actually I know I'm actually going to lose. It's actually going to cost me money to do it. I don't mind. You know,
something the RIBA could do is promote a lot more competitions. And if those competitions could be, if those competitions could actually be kind of paid competitions, you know, because the UK, we don't have it in Jersey, but you've got the lottery funding, you know, you've got funding in the UK. So that architects, the thing about competitions is all the work you have to do, which is, you know, totally unpaid.
Interviews are fine. Competitions are people giving away far too many ideas for not enough money. So on this project here, we've invited 7 practices to a competitive interview. We're only giving them a few weeks, and we're saying we only want how you will approach this problem. And we're paying them £5 grand. Even that, I know they'll do more work, understandably, for the £5 grand. So you know, it's a cultural mindset.
And that feeds into what we were saying about the women in architecture bit, because I remember that stage of life, you know, there'd be a competition, I couldn't stay all night doing that, and that was the sort of thing that made you rise up the practice and also get the good jobs. But that culture of doing work for free.
There's a slightly macho culture of hanging around, which I don't believe.
Slightly macho.
Yeah.
Slightly. We're complete pioneers sitting here.
I give you more light. I give lighters.
I've had to walk around with machete for the last 25 years to carve myself a niche. Literally.
Yeah.
My view is that you don't need to do all that. You need to have good ideas.
Yeah, I mean, from Pride Road about client procurement, I think what we've done is we've really niched down in terms of our market.
Yeah.
So we've just gone really targeted. We know our target market. We know where they hang out. We know that they are relatively low risk.
Yeah.
And so we market to that market.
Yeah.
And that's the way
But this way, Pride Road, I know you do a lot of communication, engagement. To me, that's exactly the kind of thing where Pride Road is an example of a franchise or consortium. You know, there are other ones that exist. That these should all be shared. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It also need. Sorry, Pride Road also neatly kind of reduces the RIBA plan of work is an incredibly lengthy process, and Pride Road neatly kind of compacts it.
Yeah, Magda?
I just wanted to comment because the success of the Pride Road is that we are architects, but we are not competition to one another because we are in different regions. So it's obvious that we're not taking each other jobs. So we are very keen to help each other and share the experience how to move it on. The problem with meeting architects in the same city is that they are each in each other's territories. And I find intimidating, and I'm not from UK, I'm from Poland, so I haven't studied here, so I don't have these friends architects that I know. So it's always kind of quite intimidating for me to be in a full room of architects because this is your competition, and I don't find myself comfortable talking to an architect that is basically finding for the same client in my own street. But if RIBA can put together people from various regions of like, this is your mentor, he's from that city, surely none of them.
Mentors and mentees is good, but what I'd also say is I have no problem with engaging with my peers because I actually think if they're going to beat me, they're going to beat me. But by engaging with them, you actually raise all our games. You know, so it's a balancing act because what we don't want to do is not dog eat dog, hopefully. There's a balancing act that you swap notes. We swap notes with practices on lots of things, like where themes are going or what work into HMM, what work there's like. But actually, you know, 2 of my architects in Bristol were recommended to me by another architects were leaving and wanted to go to Bristol office. In a way, the culture should be one of, you know, when we're competing to win a job. But outside of that, if we're all helping each other, we're all dragging architecture to a higher level.
Yes, but the level of handling is different. A successive company, and you already have your confidence, and you know what you are, and nobody, you know, like it is what it is. You have your own level of what you're providing. When you start, you don't have this confidence, and whatever you creating as your own company, you don't know how much is like, this is what you do, and you don't want to share it and give out the tips to other companies. So it's like, there's a different level of how far you will go.
But I have been there, and I think the engagement with others, I come to the RIBA, go to lecture events, meeting all my peers, when we did this, we had an exhibition called Under 50K, projects under 50K. I think that collective sharing, allows us all to move up. You know what I mean? And I'm with you, confidence grows with time and knowledge, and experience or whatever. But I do think there's, the reason we bother even being members of the RIBA is because there is a benefit of sharing intelligence to help us all get up. And of course, Pride Road is a membership model with a commercial underpinning. It's the same idea. But if there was two of you in the same town, my point would be, it should be that you're getting, the two practices are getting, there's 8 others, you're getting more work because you're sharing knowledge, intelligence, allows you to do things quicker, better, and smarter.
Yeah,
That's,
we are actually with design. But it's kind of like, it's interesting. The model across the Pride Road is interesting because it's such a trust across each other, and the level of knowledge of pinpointing the right ideas that are good for this level of practice. Because we are a small practice, we are dealing with residential clients, and it's very small scale micro company skills that we
with
are
the
sharing.
most demanding clients of all.
And the best will deal with them, and because the demand is humongous for the residential projects. So
definitely.
super famous in Manchester.
Right, I think it's time for you. I know there was some strict instructions not to keep you too long.
No.
Thank you very much for coming.
No, pleasure.
Nice to meet you in person.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Notes, some of you will drop me notes.
James is going to drop you
James
independently, and then
notes.
I'll drop you some notes
It's
on
about the RIBA.
use of building.
And do you know about guerrilla tactics?
Yes.
Yeah, are you engaged in that?
I came as a speaker about 5 years ago.
Because I mean that's a good example of your model.
I have spoken about the model at Guerrilla. I know that we're looking for a creative director, but that's
But I think that again that is the idea of that, because
I mean, I'm happy
6 of
if
you
you
are
want, if you wanted to put me forward again as a
because if 6, I don't know how
happy
many people, how many people in Pride Road, how many practices?
5 of us, 5 independent practices.
Yeah, it could be 25.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad rate.
It could be 155 actually.
295. The point is,
No, just 155.
Okay, 155. But the point is, can you imagine if you're doing small domestic projects or reasonable sized domestic projects, and you started sharing intelligence about low carbon detailing?
Yeah, we do.
We are.
But you're doing it on a scale of 5.
Yeah, we
right?
do, yes.
If you do it on a scale of 155, then in fact, it may be that your fees aren't rising, but your profitability is rising. Yes, to me, these are the this is a great model to help people. Obviously, I get the getting jobs because there's no work without jobs.
Yeah.
But assuming that, then you have the confidence to do jobs properly, and maybe there's a sort of imprimatur of being in Pride Road. You can't just get in; you have to prove that you have some. Exactly. So these are all very useful things. So anyway, great.
Right. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to see you all online.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice to
Nice to
meet
meet
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much.